All right, guys, welcome back to the 3 of 7 podcast. This is an awesome conversation that we have here during this episode, all about forming cohesion or unity within a team, all right? And then we also talk about, once you form that unity, how to be effective as a single organism or unit moving in the direction of a goal. And this is a valuable thing to know how to do. If you're a leader, if you have a business, if you want to do something good in the world, I guarantee you, you're going to have to form a team around you in order to accomplish that. Now, we break the process down in terms of how we accomplish that at a training that we host called the Proving Ground. All right, you guys may have heard of it. We've ran 4 of these Proving Ground missions. We only run 2 a year. And it's unbelievable what we accomplish with a group of 25 strangers and individuals within literally 48 hours. And this is how we do it. We talk about how we break it down. If you want to join us at the next Proving Ground mission, it's going to be Troop 5, January 20 through 22, 2023. All right? Those are the dates. Registration is open right now, and it will only be open for 7 days. So registration is open from right now, when you're listening to this, if you're listening to this soon enough, until May 11th at 5 p.m. It's limited to 25 team members, so only 25 sign-ups. If any spots are left after May 11th, it will be via application process only, all right? So after May 11th, you're going to have to send in an application, and we will hand select who we want to fill the remaining spots. The reason I did this is because I want to reward you guys with the opportunity to sign up for this mission if you are motivated and ready to train. And that's the reason I did it this way. So it's open till May 11th. After that, it'll be an application process only. If you want to join us, visit the link in the show notes of this episode to register for the Proving Grounds. In my opinion, I would put this training up against any other training out there. I would run a SEAL platoon through this training, and they would benefit from it. So, super pumped to announce that. I hope you guys get some good takeaways out of this episode on how you can unify a team in your own lives, in your own business, in your own mission in life. This is such a valuable skill to know how to do this, and as a leader, to know how to bring people together as a cohesive unit, moving forward in the direction of an objective. I hope you guys enjoy this show. Without further ado, here it is. All right, everyone, welcome back to the 3 of 7 podcast. We've got the full team in here today. Just got done with an awesome team PT. You know, Chili, I'm getting good, man. I'm getting back to where I need to be.
At what?
You know, just at being fierce, dude. I mean, I'm ready to crush some people. And I don't know where you were today. What happened on that run, man?
How am I supposed to answer that?
Well, I mean, what happened? Did you just gas? Were you just gassed out?
No. What? I don't know. I don't know how much more you came in than me. A couple minutes, 4 minutes?
Yeah, a couple minutes, yeah.
That's what happened.
Were you just out of gas? I mean, that's essentially what you're telling me, right?
Yeah, how many times are you going to ask the same question?
Well, I'm going to need you
to look like a numbskull. I mean,
well, I'm going to need you to get back in shape, buddy. All right?
I concur.
Because, you know, I need you on my heels, dude. So don't make this a repeat of last summer.
What do you mean?
Where I beat you every time. Let's improve this summer. All right?
You remember when Chili went and did his own workout that day?
Oh, my gosh. That was a bad day.
When I ran extra.
Oh, man, that was funny.
All right, I got a question for y'all starting off the bat. For you two listeners, let us know. Stevie Ray Vaughan, Ted Nugent, and Jimi Hendrix. Which one wins?
You asking me?
Yeah,
I'm
I'm asking all you guys.
I don't know who none of these are. I know who Ted Nugent is, but
You don't know who Stevie Ray Vaughan is, dude?
no.
Or Jimi Hendrix.
They're legendary guitar players.
Well, good for them.
Like legendary masters.
More people know them than know George Washington.
Well, I know who George Washington is, so
So
suck on that.
who would you guys say would be the winner of those three?
Well, I mean, it's not Ted Nugent. He's good.
I mean,
but it's
Ted's
not
good.
him. It's not him.
I mean, that lick he plays on Stranglehold is legit.
yeah, it's just one lick, though.
It's a lick, though. How about you, Krista? What do you think?
I think I'd go toward Jimi Hendrix personally.
Really? Okay.
It's different styles. Jimi Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan. I don't know how you measure their capabilities, but it's different styles. They're both the elite.
Well, I'm gonna for me personally, I'm gonna go with Stevie Ray Vaughan for a few reasons. One, he told all them jokers back then. He said, "I can play the guitar better than you guys can behind my back," and he did it. Watch him at a concert. He did it. And the other thing I love about Stevie Ray Vaughan is his style. Man, he's got that what would it be, like New Orleans Creole? Like he's got a skunk tail hanging off his hat, and his pants are like cleated at the bottom, and he's got these suede boots on, and I mean his style is just off the chain, man. Yeah. And he's up there just rocking that guitar, and he's just covered in sweat, just behind his back all over the place, just laying it down, son. And he's ugly as crap.
Yeah, he is ugly.
But man, he makes it look good. He makes ugly look good.
Everybody wants to be ugly when they see him.
When you see Stevie Ray, son, I don't know, that dude fires me up. You know, I enjoy being in the presence of anyone who is really, really passionate about anything. I don't care. We talked about making bread today. If you're a passionate bread maker, I want to hang out with you, right? That is the number one thing, maybe the number one attribute that draws me to people is people who are passionate about something. I don't know about y'all. Blake's just doing his own thing, so
I had to turn some stinking air on, man.
Yeah.
You're delivering salad. If I'm going to do it, I might as well do it now.
I guess we'll just move on with this conversation.
Boy, that ticked him off.
Well, if he get to the meat of things, maybe people would start paying attention.
Good gosh, that ticked him off.
All right. Well, I want to let you guys know the fall basic course dates are out, and people ask me if I've already applied for the basic course, should I apply again? The answer is yes, because it's new dates. So if you've already applied for the basic course, by the way, if you have not been selected to come out on the basic course, it's not because I don't want you to come out on the basic course. It's because I can't get everybody in, right? So don't think that if you didn't get selected, it's because I didn't think you were good enough to come out and train. No, you're good enough. It's just I ran out of spots, which is why we decided to do some fall missions. So if you've already applied and you didn't get in one of the spring and summer courses this year, apply again. Just resend the same application with the new dates that you want to join us out on the basic course for the fall missions, all right? So I just wanted to clear that up because Kelly asked me today, or at the Proving Ground, she said, I applied like a year ago. Should I apply again? And I'm like, if you applied a year ago, yeah, you should apply again because your application's buried somewhere in an inbox. And I no longer have eyes on it. So that's ready. It's on the website. There's a link to the registration page in the show notes of this episode. I wanted to throw that out there. We did the Proving Grounds last weekend, so I just want to recap some lessons learned from that and then move on to the topic of the show. But before we recap the Proving Grounds. We want to present Coach Krista with an award for exemplary service as an instructor. Now, here's the thing. At 3 of 7 Project, we're not like the U.S. military.
The old military.
Let me tell you, one thing I could not stand about the military is the awards system. They would give out awards to people that did their job. Like, they just simply did their job. And you'd get an award for it. You'd come back off a deployment and you'd have some comms guy or tech or something, and he'd be up in front at the award ceremony and be like, we're giving this guy an award for keeping up with the radios during deployment. And I'm like, what the crap? That was his job, to keep up with the radios. Why does he get a freaking award? This is stupid. All right. Coach Krista has went above and beyond her duty as an instructor, in our opinion. Would you agree with that, Chili?
Lord, yeah.
She really, really shows. She actually just comes on the podcast because she loves you guys that listen to the podcast. She doesn't even have to be here, technically. So she goes above and beyond. We want to present you with a gift, Coach Krista. It'll be right down there on the side of your chair. Reach right there around the side of your couch there.
Over here?
Yeah, you'll find a little black box over there.
I'm a little nervous.
Yeah.
Here we go. Coach Krista's gift here. What do you have to say, Chelly? Hold it up for the people to see, Coach Krista.
There you go.
Wow. Come on, man. What do you think?
Thank you. That's awesome. Now I don't have to borrow yours.
Yep. So
That's awesome. Thank you.
that right there, Coach Krista, is a Glock 17.
Okay.
All right. Now, Blake might argue with me, but that pistol, the Glock 17, is the pistol that all other pistols are judged against. It's the standard of handguns, in my opinion, the Glock 17. What do you think, Blake?
Yeah, I think if you were just gonna have one handgun, I think the Glock 17 is probably it. If you're gonna have multiple, then you can kind of pick and choose of which way you want to go, longer, shorter, whatever. But if you're gonna have one do it all, I think the Glock 17's it.
Yeah.
So
Thanks.
we want to thank you for your exemplary service, Krista. What do you have to say for yourself?
This is how you like to do this, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it. I love the spotlight being on me. No, thank you so much. Thank you. That's very kind of you. So, yeah.
Well,
is that because I called you out at the basic or the Proving Grounds?
I don't remember which time you called me out. You called me out so many times. Do you have any advice for the people?
Advice?
Yeah.
I think it'll come out during the show.
Okay.
Probably.
Roger that. Chili, you got anything to say?
No, I'm proud.
Blake, do you have anything to say?
Thank you.
You guys are a bunch of freaking turds this morning,
Can
man.
I ask you something?
Yeah, ask me something.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah, please do.
When you say, hey, buddy, hey, Bubba, you got anything to say? The answer's freaking no, dude. We'll say it if we got something to say. So quit asking.
Well, do y'all know the purpose of a podcast is to talk, right?
Yeah, well,
And so you can't just sit there like a lump, Chili. Was that PT too hard for you this morning? Did it wear you out?
I'll answer a question that's valid. This is ridiculous. I know what a podcast is. I know what it's for. Quit asking that.
Well.
Go ahead. You're supposed to talk.
All right.
It's a podcast, man.
All right. Let's talk about let's go around the horn, talk about the Proving Ground. Number one lesson learned at the Proving Ground for you guys whether it's pertains to the team or pertains to yourself as a teacher or an instructor. For those of you guys that don't know what the Proving Ground is, it's a course of training, course of instruction that we try to run twice a year. The next course will be in January of 2023, I guess. Blake will get that posted up pretty soon on the website with the dates. We try to run it twice a year. In my opinion, it's just awesome training, man. You can't really compare it to the basic course because it's totally different than the basic course. But I think the two, they're so different. They complement each other because you're not just learning the exact same skill at both. But anyways, the Proving Ground, it's like 2.5 days long where we take, I think what do we cap out at 25 people? Mm-hmm. So we have about 25 people out, and we do a bunch of really cool stuff. We don't tell you guys everything about it, and we do that on purpose. But I absolutely love that training. What'd you take away from the Proving Grounds?
I go last, man.
Blake, go.
Nope, I need to think.
Chili, what'd you take away from the Proving Grounds?
I know what you should have took away is don't ever freaking doubt me.
Y'all know this dang podcast is gonna tank if y'all don't start talking, right? I sent y'all a dang outline for the podcast last night. You had all night to think about what you wanted to take away from the Proving Grounds.
That's all I got to do is lay around and think.
He's going to make me not want to talk because I just talked and then he goes on this rant.
All right. What'd you get, Chili? Oh, not to doubt you.
Yeah, that's your lesson. I don't know what you were going to say, but that ought to be your lesson. I'll just say that. Number 2, my lesson was, well, not really a lesson, just reinforced a lesson, I think, is that a team is always stronger than an individual, and that was a hard lesson for me to learn in my life. And like I said, I've learned it before, and every time, but particularly this Proving Ground, it just really reinforced that in my mind, because that's what you see these group of individuals come together and do way more as a team than they would have. And I don't know, that really stuck out to me this time and was really cool. And I thought this group in particular really showed that, really exemplified that.
Man, they did.
Yeah.
They did.
So that was cool for me.
Yeah, that's huge, man.
That probably stuck out the most. But
yeah, it's interesting. We get to learn and grow usually just as much as instructors as the students get to learn and grow. Mm-hmm. It's just a little different. Mm-hmm. But man, yes, this 4 troop really did pull together as a team. I think the minor tweaks to the curriculum really helped. And then this was the best curriculum that we have taught. We're really getting it dialed in now. And then you paired that with just the blessing of an amazing group of humans.
Mm-hmm. And the proctors, I think.
Yeah.
That stuck out to me. Having them there was nice. I mean, they're all awesome.
Yeah. And if you guys wonder what Chili's talking about, at the Proving Grounds, we have class proctors. The proctors are former Proving Grounds graduates. So there are a few people that have graduated the Proving Grounds, the basic course, and then an advanced mission, the Alpine mission. So they've ran through the entire training pipeline. And now they get to come back to 307 Project training as instructors. But they have a different relationship with the students there because they've also been students there. So they can help them and set them up for success in a very unique way because they know what it feels like to be there in the shoes of the students. Mm-hmm. And yes, you are exactly right. Chris, Reckliff, Pete, Hal, and John were just, they're irreplaceable. They're irreplaceable at that event.
They really care. I mean, those guys, they really care about the students and making sure they get as much as we do. I mean, they are fully invested.
Yeah, you can't care more than they do. So I mean, it's awesome.
They are those 4 men are the beginning of what our vision has been coming alive. I tell people at these training events, my objective is to work myself out of a job. So the ultimate gift to me is to be able to develop someone into that instructor role. Like that is, I even told you that there, Krista. I said, one of my favorite things is seeing anybody grow into that teaching role, grow into that instructor role. That's one of my favorite things to watch happen. But that's a long process to get there. And those guys have made it there. And they are full-on, valuable instructors. I don't know. I agree, Chili. How about you, Instructor Krista?
Well, when I came back, I found myself saying the same thing over and over again to people who asked me, how did it go? And one of the things I found myself saying is, it is just amazing what can happen in 48 hours. Because really, it's Friday to Sunday, but it's really essentially 48 hours. So just the amount of transformation that can occur on an individual level, but then also the organism becoming a unit and a healthy unit in 48 hours, that's crazy to see what happens in that amount of time. And each time I've done this, I show up at the beginning and I think, how is this going to happen? There's, you get introduced to the students and you see that it's just chaos and they're all just kind of in their own heads and they're doing their own thing. They're individuals. They have no idea and no concept of what needs to happen. And there is a little bit of doubting, like shame on me in the beginning every time, doubting like, are we going to actually are they going to get anything out of this? Is this going to actually happen? Are they going to get it together? And every time it does. And it's just amazing to see that transformation. It's just, I'm always in awe when it happens. So I think that's just remarkable to me. And it's a good reminder each time. And then on an individual level, I think something that I found myself just being aware of was my own state, because it's easy as an instructor, you can get so focused on the students that you lose your own self-awareness and what is going on with you and what you need to be doing and what you need to be changing, and then also your teammates, the cadre, instructor cadre. And so I found myself trying to be more intentional about that. So, even before in the middle of the day on Saturday, us getting together and saying, hey, remember, we're in the middle of the day. We just had a long first half of the day. We just ate lunch. We're gonna naturally feel kind of like things should be winding down. Our bodies are going to be unwinding right now, so we need to pay attention. And so just little things about that, like where I found myself wanting to be more self-aware and focused and present, because it's easy to focus on the students and not yourself. And then just a good reminder that I think when we did a debriefing at the end, that as instructors, we can always be better. We can always tighten things up. We can always become more efficient. You mentioned the curriculum changes and then kind of cleaning up the job of the proctors and kind of making that a little tighter. And so it's just fun to see all those little changes too, that those actually do make a difference. And there's always something, not just the students can be learning and doing better, but also as instructors, we can too.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Looking, you guys, when you come out as students, you don't get to see behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, we are actively trying to implement the exact same things that we are in the midst of teaching you, right? So we have to actively do that ourselves. We have to practice what we preach. And I think I made that comment at the very end. I said, it's amazing how when we implement the exact same things within our team that we're teaching this team, they work. That's how you know they work. And that's why I always say we don't teach from theory, all right? We're not going to teach you anything that we don't actively implement. And those are the things that we see impact us and make us more effective in pouring into you. And then back to Krista's first point, that's what the majority of this podcast is going to be about. I want to go through and analyze, really, what do we see? What works? What do we do to take these 24, 25 strangers and create a living single organism? What are the things that happen? Because like Krista said, it happens. And I have a few things in mind, but I want to hear what you guys see or what you guys do to help, I guess, help promote that unity of that group. Blake, have you thought of anything yet?
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, on a group or team level, it may not be this way for you, Chad, because training people, you saw the training work. But I think for every course, I'm always kind of amazed that it just actually works. You know, because there's so much stuff out there that's like a gimmick or self-help. But to see like Nick, he was over there on, like, when he checked in, he wouldn't talk to anybody. He was so anxious. He couldn't even get words out. And the next day in the morning, he's like, man, I love you guys, talking to the team. And to see that it actually works, like, you know, kind of like Chili said, it's not maybe a new lesson learned, but it's just, I think that after each course, I'm like, man, I can't believe these people got this much out of the course. Regardless of time, just that they got that much out of it. And you can truly think of seeing that person on the first day and seeing them on the last day, and they truly are like a different person. And so that's one thing I think I get on every course that we run. And then individually, I felt like on this one, I was able to stay locked in better. And I think I took pictures this time. And I think for me, if I get downtime, it's hard for me to stay locked on during that downtime. I want to cut up, I want to do this or that. But if I have something I can do during that, it's like I never get the downtime to just pull away and relax. So until the evening. So I think, I mean, it seems like it wouldn't work. You would think like, all right, if you do less, you can stay locked on longer. But it's not that way for me. If I get downtime, I'm immediately going to start to shut down. And it's even like Crew and Chad at the Mid-State Mile. If that hadn't been so fast, I probably would have shut down somewhere in there because of the time lapse. So for this one, for me taking the pictures and every spare moment I had, I'm like, well, let me grab some pictures. And I think that helped me stay dedicated to the students more.
Photographer, videographer.
No video yet.
Blake's coming into that. I think we're going to do our first video project tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're gonna give that a go. All right. So for me, this proving grounds has helped me, I guess, identify my mission for me personally. And it's really funny because I've never had a personal mission statement. And I even told this troop that at the end. I mean, I'm totally honest with the students. I don't try to put on a front like I'm perfect and I have it all figured out. And we're talking about the creed and I'm straight up. I mean, I don't have a personal mission statement. And I've really been thinking about that because that's something that we taught here at this last proving grounds was how to develop a personal mission statement. And I know, man, that's so over propagated. Like it even sounded corny to me in the beginning until you guys taught it. And I was like, all right, this could actually be valuable for me personally, for all of us. Like, and I'm glad I had that feeling because I should have that feeling. If that's something that Blake and James are going to teach, it should be something that I see as valuable to me personally, or it's not worth teaching to the students. And as you guys were teaching that, I was thinking, you know, Krista gets on to me all the time for getting sidetracked on these tangents. And I think a lot of the reason I get sidetracked on these freaking squirrels that are, in my peripheral is because I have not really honed in on my own personal mission, right? And I think 3 to 7 Project can have a mission statement, but we also should all have our own personal mission within this team right here that allows us each to serve the overall mission in our own unique ways. Does that make sense? I think that's important. Well, I've never had one. I ended up getting sidetracked. When they taught that, and I started thinking in my mind, answering those questions you guys asked. Like, what Blake, what keeps you up at night? In other words, what are you really passionate about, Chad? Like, and what are your gifts? Like, what are you gifted at doing? And putting that into words. And what was cool is when you asked those questions, Blake, I knew the answers to all of those. And it brought me to the conclusion, like you guys already mentioned, like what I'm most passionate about, what really just gets me going at all the training that we run is when I see the unity that is created eventually. There is nothing on earth more powerful than a unified group of humans that are moving forward all toward a goal or a mission or objective. There's nothing more powerful than that. And it struck me, man, when we were doing Team PT and the team had finally meshed and they were moving down that gravel road. And I could hear the sound of their feet scraping on the gravel. And dude, I had a moment. I had a weird moment. It was the sound. It was the sound of that single organism moving across that surface and their feet scraping that gravel. And they were just flowing, man. And it was the sound that struck me because I've heard that sound hundreds of thousands of times in the SEAL teams. When we were moving as a unit, as a single organism, patrolling in on a target or extracting off a target, whatever, and we were moving in that exact same formation across that exact same surface, some gravel, dirt path, and it was that exact same sound. And that sound doesn't happen. Listen for it next time. That sound doesn't happen until they come together and they move as one unit. That's the only time you'll hear it. It's a specific cadence and tone to it. And I was like, that's what I'm passionate about. And so that was the biggest moment I had in the proving ground of realizing, why am I doing this training? I know I enjoy this because I keep coming back to it, and it's what we have all dedicated our lives to. So I know I'm getting something out of it, but what is it that I'm getting out of it? And it's seeing unity created amongst the team. That's the single element. And which is going to lead us into the next part of our conversation. Because we as a culture have forgotten, in my opinion, whether it's in the church, whether it's in regular life, we have forgotten how to unify and move together as a single organism towards an objective. We've forgotten how to do that, and it has made us weak. I think it is probably one of the single biggest problems that we have as a people, as a nation. It's made us extremely weak. And I've made a comment a few times in the last few days about become dangerous, like stay dangerous. And I don't mean by by that statement, I don't mean like learn how to kill people. When I say stay dangerous, I mean like stay sharp. Like be able to maintain your freedom and your independence and unity is probably the single thing that will make you the most dangerous force on earth. Goes back to Chili's lesson earlier. As an individual, I promise you can't accomplish anything. You will never accomplish anything as long as you're continuing to try to go at life alone. All right? And that's why I think I'm so passionate about that unifying of these people. And you know what's interesting? I thought about it the other day. It's interesting that all these people can show up, all the students can show up, and they all come from different backgrounds, different beliefs, different political views. They all believe different things, but they're still able to unify. And so I think we need to stop thinking that we all have to agree on everything in order to unify. We don't. You can have your own individual beliefs, your own individual belief system, and you can still come alongside your team in order to move forward towards an objective.
You have to share something, though. I don't think
you have to share you have to share a desire
to do the same thing.
You have to share the desire to accomplish whatever it is you set out to accomplish.
Yeah, that's a requirement. That's
right.
Yeah.
Look at it in the context of the church, though. Look at it in the context of the church. I think the church overall has this same mission set out in front of them, right? I think you could probably, expound on it, but essentially it would be to be a light in the world and share the gospel of Christ, right? So we have this, we all agree in the church that that's that objective that's set out in front of us. But what divides us? Why can't the church unify? It's because we have all these little different belief systems, right? Of how we should do things, or how we interpret certain things, or how we should dress, or how we should act, or all this crap, right? Even amongst all that, the church could still unify in order to accomplish that single objective. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think a common answer to what unifies people the quickest is usually one of two things, or both things. One is a common vision, and what the other is a common enemy. And so having a common vision or a common enemy usually is what unites people the fastest. And you can see that in culture right now, and in the church, all kinds of things. And for instance, there's a book that came out not too long ago called The Coddling of the American Mind. And in that book, in a little portion, he talks about how there's a difference between common humanity, like identity politics, common humanity, and then common enemy. And so like an example of common humanity would be Martin Luther King Jr., like where you're focusing on the attributes and the things that like are common to humanity, and you're uniting around that, like a common humanity. And then probably more common nowadays is the idea of that common enemy and rallying around the common enemy. Hitler did it, with the Jews, and there are examples throughout history where people unite and become strong forces around a common enemy. And so, and I think even biblically, both of those things exist. You have a common vision, like you were saying. There is this common vision. There's this common humanity. We're all made in the image of God. There is this unity there. And we do have a common enemy, but I think what we lose sight of is who is that enemy. And we make each other our enemies, and we make all those little divisions, and we get focused on things, and that's not our enemy. And I what comes to mind is a story from the book of Joshua, where right before they took Jericho, Joshua was visited by the commander of the Lord's army. I don't know if you remember that story, but he didn't know who this person was approaching. And basically Joshua says, whose side are you on? Are you on our side or their side? And the commander of the Lord's army basically says to him, he answers, no, I am the commander of the Lord's army. So he doesn't say, I'm on your side, I'm on their side. He says no, and basically reorients him to the Lord is focused on his kingdom, and he's not on anybody's side. Like, this is where your vision needs to be. And remember, basically it's kind of a reminder to me, remember who your enemy is, and what your purpose is and what your mission really is. And I think we lose sight of that, and we can start, because we want to take control of things, and we talked about how we're tribal and we are drawn to that. We want to get behind something and unite. But we really have to be careful that we remember, what that vision is that we're supposed to be rallying around, and who our actual real enemy is, because we can lose sight of that too.
Yep. So a clearly defined vision and a clearly defined opponent.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have a lot of those things in the world, and like the church, for instance, the common goal. To me, what I see lacking is nobody is taking responsibility for the end goal. So on our missions, we call it the LPO, and he's essentially responsible for everything. But I've seen this even recently in my own faults in my family where I wasn't doing that, and I see it in the world where, say you have this end goal of the church to spread the gospel to all the ends of the world, so that everybody has, heard. But who is owning that? Like, if maybe a pastor of a church, and maybe he's not owning, like, who is taking responsibility for that and actually overseeing the whole thing? They have a common goal, they have a common enemy, but who is actually owning and orchestrating all of that on a human level, But I see that. I mean, I think it's key. We see it on all the courses we run, that when they have the common goal, we give them that, and they won't accomplish it until they get the right leadership structure in place. And I think that's a big, big downfall.
Yeah, I was going to say, tangibly, how do we unify? And like Blake said, a family, a team, a massive bot, however big it is, the foundational element, you have to start with a clearly established chain of command. I think that's the very first thing that you have to start with in order to create unity, because everything else that follows has to pass through that chain of command properly. So you have to find the right people that have the right mind to be in the right place within that chain of command. And then you have to have the overall body, everyone that has unified to move in this certain direction. They all have to understand how to utilize that chain of command, and they have to abide by those rules. So in the military, if you skip the chain of command, if I had an issue and I didn't take it to my squad leader first, and I went straight to my platoon chief, I would get like severely punished for that.
Yeah. That's how it was in law enforcement, too.
You have to establish that, and then everyone has to agree to abide by that. People, that blows their freaking mind, dude.
But what do you think about in a smaller team, such as like a family or even our team of 4? I mean, it's essentially a horizontal chain of command. Like, any of us could go to any one person. So it's like there has to be a certain number of people before that really becomes effective, right, in a team? Or what do you think?
I mean,
Like, I'm not telling Josie to go to Blakely before they come to me with something. You know, like, they can come to me anytime. Any of us can go. I mean, we do. Any of us go to you at any time, or me, or whatever. So, like, there is a point where it becomes effective and a point where it's not. Would you? I mean, do you agree or not?
yeah, I mean,
I agree.
Like,
For
what's
what
our
that's
chain
worth.
of command right here in 307?
I still think that there has to be someone there has to be someone in that LPO or that chief position that maintains a battlefield picture.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. You know, I would say, Blake, you probably maintain that battlefield picture. And most of the information flows up to you. Now, prior to that, it depends on the project. So, like, if it's a apparel thing, it's going to flow through Chili, should flow through Chili up to you, right? That's, I mean,
So
so
it may be like task oriented to where it not necessarily like you're the squad leader and you're responsible for these things. It's like you're the shirt guy and you're responsible for shirts. So if you need shirt stuff, you go to Chili. You don't go to me. And
Yeah.
then so it's not like it's not structured as in kind of hierarchy how you would think of military, like LPO, squad leader, whatever. But it's more task oriented than it is hierarchy.
that's right. Yeah. Like, you're not going to be working on an apparel design. And if you are, you're screwing the team over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't know. To me, your point's well taken.
Well, what do you think about it, Chili?
There's a point that's almost describing two different things. What you're describing there. I mean, one's chain of command, and one is just
Responsibility.
being
or-
logical with a task. I mean, I don't know. You kind of splitting hairs there, in my opinion, but I think that point by Blake is well taken. That at a certain point, it's inefficient. A family of 3 or 4, you know, you make the youngest go to the older sister before going to the mom, then going to the dad. It's like, what the crap's that for? I mean, you know, but if it's 12 people, then, well, not even, I don't think it ever makes sense in a family to have to go to your brother first. I mean, I don't know. I think there's just different situations. Like when you're getting something done, then yeah, chain of command would be useful even with us just having 4. But something like that's just delineating different tasks. I mean, I think you're kind of describing two different things.
Yeah, I think it's like going to the right person for the right thing
Yeah.
versus the chain of command essentially in a big group just cuts down on the chatter. I
Yeah.
think that's the biggest advantage of it is that it cuts down on all the voices, all the chatter, and you're able to make clear decisions and communicate clearly. And so it's just more efficient to take it to the person who needs it in a smaller team.
Yeah.
Also, you
And
just
so it
wouldn't.
just looks a little...
Like if Chad wanted something with a shirt, he wouldn't go to you, not because that's out of order of the chain of command, is because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You go, well, huh? You go, ask Chili. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, not because it's just more of a logical reason.
Well, I don't want to get too far in the weeds. I just thought it was worth noting that if someone is operating a small team or they have a family and they hear us and say,
I think
well,
that's
they said that we should have a chain of command. I'm going to have my 10-year-old go to my 12-year-old before they come to mom or me. And so I just wanted to point out that,
I would probably do that, by the way, if I had kids.
yeah,
I would legit probably
No,
do
I
that.
think that's a great point, Blake, because you can take that too far, and I wouldn't do that with a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old. You know,
Yeah.
that seems kind of crazy, but yeah, I think there is obviously a place for that. Obviously, so
Yeah, the whole point of it, and I think to Blake's point where the chain of command becomes really, really important is when there's enough people that whoever leading the charge, whoever that person leading the charge or maintaining the battlefield picture is, they can no longer manage the voices of everyone that's supporting that mission. Right. So I think that's where it becomes important. So I think, yes, as the team grows, the chain of command becomes more and more important. For us, because we're a small team, I think that chain of command shifts depending on what the task is, right? I think that shifts. So
I think you can understand it better in a bigger business where there's a lot of specialized roles, and then there's somebody in charge of the whole team doing that specialized task, and then there's a bunch of that, and then that's kind of like your squad leaders, and then they report to somebody. That way it really cuts down, because you may have 100 people, but you only hear from 4.
Yeah, if you had 2 or 3 people working for you with T-shirts, they're not going to be talking to me at all.
Nope.
So what do you think is the maximum number of people that one leader can manage? Or the maximum number of voices that you can manage?
At one time, or just like people?
In your squad.
Yeah.
I say 4.
Yeah, it's about a handful.
I say 4.
3 to 5, something like that.
Yep. What were you going to say, Krista?
No, I was just going to say I think it's the chain of command is an efficiency issue, not a unity issue. So I don't think chain of command creates unity, but once you have unity, in order for it to operate and maintain that, you have to have efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you have to contextualize that. That'll look different in different settings. Different settings, different sizes. So,
all right. Point 2 that I wanted to bring up on unity, unifying a group. And now that you just made that comment, I think there may be some delineation here. Is communication. I'm just thinking of how do we create these people? First of all, we teach them to establish and utilize a chain of command. Second of all, we teach them how to communicate. I think that's really, really important. Now, what we see when we train is people have forgotten how to get a simple piece of information from, say, the front of the unit or the back of the unit. They can't disseminate it throughout the entire group. It just stops. At some point, it just stops. And then you've got half or more of this organism that's not working with the same amount of information. And it causes collapse. So, the number one advice that I can give you is to pass the freaking word, man. Pass the word. If somebody in your team sends you a piece of information, pass that information up or down the chain of command, whichever direction it needs to go. All right? It is essential to maintain unity for you to pass the freaking word.
I think what we're getting at here, and to Krista's point made me think, these things are tools to make a team effective. And effectiveness does create unity, I would say. If a team sees that, man, we are getting this mission done, then they say, I'm part of that. I want to contribute to this team because they're doing something. And so these tools that create effectiveness in turn create unity. And to the point of communication, I think that, I don't know why that is that way, but I can only guess that maybe people hear whatever's being passed up and they think, all right, I got that. Surely the guy in front of me got that too. And the guy in front of him says, I didn't get that, but the guy behind me got it, so if I need to hear it, he'll let me know. And then I think it's just a break in communication. And instead of just shouting out whatever it is, even if you think the guy, there's no way he didn't hear that. The dude behind me just said it, shout it out anyways, I think I have found myself doing that before. So that's the only reason I can speak to that. Like I can hear something and I think, well, I got that. The dude over here gets out of line, I'll let him know. And he's operating and making decisions with impartial information.
Krista, did you use the word effective?
Yeah, efficiency.
Okay, yeah. Effective, efficient. I think that's what those things are. It's how to make a team more effective.
How to operate better.
Unity comes down to, I think, what we said at the beginning of that shared vision and shared mission.
But they can't unify without these things.
I think they work together. Like Blake said, one
can't be
builds
effective.
on the other. But
I think unity is a different word to me, but
yeah. In order for people, I think what brings people together initially is need. you need each other. You depend on each other in order to survive. You're suffering together. I think what unifies them is suffering and dependence.
Yeah.
That's what gets them. Like from out the gates, when they are going through the first thing we throw at them, they got to figure it out, and they got to figure it out together because they're suffering and they need each other. And I do think that's something just that lacks in a lot of our lives today is we're so buffered from that. And I think especially as Americans, we're so independent. And so I think a huge key to unity is suffering and dependence. And then once you have that, then in order to figure out how to operate like that, you have to start layering on those techniques of communication and like those principles. And then, like Blake said, then it just it feeds on it. Just creates a cycle, because then that breeds more unity and strength within the team. And then you start to feel a sense of pride and accomplishment, and we can do this. And then they feel even more dependent on each other because they've shown that they can add value. And so, it's a little bit the chicken and the egg, I guess, but I do think that the initial thing, the catalyst to unity, is suffering and dependence, probably.
When I see a team really come together every time, is we're on the basic course and we're doing this mission, and they're like, okay, yeah, we know this is where we got to go. And they're not really treating that like a need. They're like, okay, but when somebody goes down and it's cold outside and it's dark, and Chad's like, if you guys don't take care of this guy, he might get mild hypothermia here. And they're like, oh, crap.
Might get severe hypothermia.
Yeah, might get severe depending on the weather. And they're like, oh, crap. There is a real need here now. And that's when the team really comes together. It's like they don't view the mission as a real need until there's like a potential injury involved, and they're like, oh man, we can't let this guy, he's all we got, we can't let him go down here.
It's when that goal is narrowed down and solidified in everyone's mind to take care of this guy.
Yep.
That's what it is. Everything turns off in that moment for them for the next however long, and literally they're not thinking about the end anymore. They're thinking about help this guy.
Yep.
And that's when they seem the most unified, because it's complete, zeroed in, centered on one thing.
Yep.
That's why. And I think that's unity. All this other, it's being more effective. You can only be effective if you are already a unified team.
Well, yeah, and though you got to have those tools, because at the point somebody goes down, then they have to have a chain of command, because everybody's just going to be babbling and nobody's going to know what to do. You got to communicate effectively. So these things are important.
Yeah, it'd be horribly ineffective to try to help somebody without that.
What causes unity versus what makes you effective are two different things, but they go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from you guys, from you, Blake, and Chili, is a key piece of that unity is learning to become selfless. Is that, would you put it that way? Learning, going through the process, or learning to become selfless.
Others focused, getting outside your own head, your own experience.
Yep. Mission focused. That's exactly right. And that was the number one thing that I had to hammer home with our team at the end of the land nav, was getting them to recognize how selfish they were, and how that simple switch in their mind, it hadn't been flipped yet. They didn't. You don't even realize how selfish you are.
Oh yeah.
You don't even realize it until somebody points it out to you. And
even then, you still don't really realize it.
So
it takes a lot of work.
That team, the team that I had on the land nav, they didn't unify until the very end. After, like, once they were getting to the very end of having to pay the man for not finishing the mission, they didn't unify it all right then. And that's because I was pretty daggone harsh on them. What they had done is they had a few team members that were really, really struggling, and they just left them in the back to suffer alone the whole time. and they'd get to the top of a mountain, hit the point, and they would all just stand around and wait for those team members that were suffering to catch up. And then as soon as they would catch up, they would start moving again. So those people were just getting drugged through the mud the entire time because we had a group, we had a team that were being selfish. They were more concerned about their own needs than the needs of their teammates in order to hit this objective.
And that's hard too, because if you could also make a mistake by completely neglecting all of your individual needs, let's call them, while you're out there. Like you can kill yourself doing that, by just, your soul's sold out on not being selfish, that you forget to eat and you don't drink and you don't do this. Well, that's actually going to be more detrimental than, if you end up flaking out. Mm-hmm. So there has to be a balance where you're taking care of yourself in a sense. But I think the way that's remedied partly is if everybody is focusing on others, then you're taken care of by them.
That's right.
So I think that's the confusion that some people have, is like, well, if I'm always thinking about others, how am I going to be taken care of? Well, hopefully someone else is doing that for you. Yep. And you're doing it for them. So that's kind of how.
Yeah. To be 100% selfless, the whole team has to be 100% selfless, or else. Yeah, I mean that's the perfect example of this is when we were on the field and they had to go change, and one guy was like, "Nah, I'm already changed. I'm good," and he just stays there on the field without talking too much about it. That's the perfect example of being selfish. And I think another thing that I thought of out there, I'm just very literal and to the point, and we always say you train like you fight, and I always kind of got the gist of it, but I just had the thought at the proving ground, and really it's like you train like you live. You train like you fight would be in a battle scenario, but really it's you train like you live. And so people don't take the training seriously initially, and if they showed up for the mission and it's like, if you don't get this done, this guy's going to die. Like maybe there's somebody there waiting for you and he's going to die. If you treat the mission like that, then you're going to operate much more efficiently and effectively, and you're going to implement the tools right away. But I think that they just treat the training like, we're out here, we got to get this mission done. If we mess up, it's all right if we mess up, or we move a little bit slower, or maybe, we drag our feet here, or my buddy's got this. You're going to take much more ownership of it if you actually train like it would be in life, like you would live your life. Because that's not how I live my life, so that's not how I want to train. So that's what I was getting at earlier, that when actually something has to be done, or there will be severe consequences for it, that's when people take it seriously. Not when they show up for training. I don't think they take the consequences of not being effective and efficient seriously.
You know why? You know why everybody's stuck in that freaking mindset? Because everything is so watered down.
Yeah.
In this stupid culture that we live in. Everything is so freaking watered down, man. That's why people are generally stuck in that mindset of there are no real consequences to anything that happens. Even your dang life is watered down, man. Mm-hmm. Not all of you, but a lot of you are living a watered down freaking life where there are no consequences. I talked about that on a podcast a few weeks ago, man. And especially events, especially training events that you go to, man. Like, you really want to train? Where can you go to get something that really legit ain't watered down? But nobody does that. There's too much risk, man. Nobody injects real risk into a training event. That's why our training is so powerful. It's because we don't have any freaking money. We're not worried. I mean, we're going to train within the bound. We have safety protocols in place. But if you deviate from what we tell you to do, there's real risk, man.
Yeah, there's not a hard guardrail that's going to keep you from running.
Exactly.
There's like a ribbon there along the edge of the road. And it's like, you better not cross that ribbon. You can get through it. It'll break.
Yeah.
But,
Well, there needs to be. You can't simulate that. I mean, that's why you go out there and you expect people to handle situations a certain way when there actually is no risk. They can't. It's a real hard shift to make yourself believe that there is when there's not. Mm-hmm. So you need it to actually be hard and actually have a level of it. And then they go, oh,
they weren't kidding.
I ain't got to pretend now.
Yeah.
It is this way.
Yeah.
So if you had to pretend, I get why it'd be hard to pretend like something was one way when it's not. But if you create training that doesn't have to do that, well, then it's a whole different game.
Well, and then the people have to own it, and it's their responsibility.
Yeah.
They can't just blame whoever's in charge or, this wasn't supposed to happen. It's your fault. It's their choices. Their choices. They have agency, and they have responsibility for their actions. And, speaking of watered down, I think that's a way in which a lot of things can be watered down nowadays is people don't have to own things as much and aren't held accountable or responsible for the choices they make because there's always, a scapegoat or somebody to blame or put it on. So,
Yeah. Yep. That's what I love about our training, man, is it's not watered down. There is personal responsibility involved in keeping yourself safe. We give you all the tools and all the information that you need, and we're there, but we're not there to hold your hand.
We don't meet in a hotel lobby.
Oh, my gosh, dude.
Yeah.
Yes. I want to dig into something real quick, and I just want you guys' opinion on it, because one of the aspects of getting this body of people to operate as a single organism, one of the aspects is punishing or making the people that are within that team that they just haven't got it yet, making them really uncomfortable, almost punishing them, right? It's an essential aspect.
Giving them consequences.
Yes, like it sounds weird, but that is what I'm always looking for. I'm like, okay, who just hasn't got this yet? And I'm watching for them, and I make their lives really, really hard for a short period of time. And then when they are able to recover from that, they're like, okay, well, now this is actually better. Like, I feel better. This is better than what I was just doing a minute ago. Right?
To me, it's important. I love pays to be a winner, but I think an important flip side to that is it sucks to be a loser.
Yes.
And
Next shirt.
I mean, not for real though. Like, it don't just pay. If it pays to be a winner, it has to suck to be a loser. You can't have one without the other. Mm-hmm. So I think I love that. It really almost delegitimizes pays to be a winner if it doesn't suck to be a loser, because you go, who cares?
Yeah.
You have to have both. So that's why I like it.
Yeah, there's no middle ground. It's not like you get to be neutral if you didn't win, but if you won, you get this positive thing.
No, if you ain't first, you last.
Yep.
Sucks to suck.
So maybe that I didn't even think about that, Shelly. Maybe that is a big piece of our training is everything that we do. It pays to be a winner, and that just drives it just really drives home that, like, all right, man, we really want to get this done, because it's going to suck if we don't get it done. Right?
Yeah.
And it almost creates this this fire in people, man. This sense of urgency,
a need.
Yeah.
And when you combine that with getting outside yourself and becoming part of a team or a platoon, I think there is an extra fire because you don't want to let your team down.
Yeah.
And you might be willing to pay the man, but you don't want your teammates to pay the man.
On your account.
Yeah, and on your account. And so I know, like, even when we're doing PT together, like, one of the biggest things for me is I don't want to hold you guys back. Like, that's so on my brain. And so so to some people that matters a lot. It's not even them having to pay the man, but being the contributing to their teammates having to do it, you know? And so I think that's combining those two things can be powerful.
I also like to shame the people that don't quite get it. I'm always teetering on the edge of how far I push that, which is another thing that I think fits within this conversation. If you are forming a team, you have to balance that suffering and pain with also encouragement. You have to balance that. And I'm always conscious of that as a leader, as an instructor. I don't know if you guys notice, but when it starts to really suck, I'll inject some encouragement and some words in there that let them know that you are making progress. You are making progress, And so you have to balance that. But I'm always teetering on the edge. And if you guys remember that morning, one of the mornings, I made the LPO of Bravo platoon stand out in front of the platoon while the rest of the platoon was getting beat, and stand there and say, I decided to sleep in. I decided to sleep in.
Yeah.
Like shaming them. It just drives that point home so hard that this is serious. And I'm going to stand out like a sore thumb if I don't contribute at the level I should contribute.
Well, it's like building your muscles. The tearing down is the shaming. But if there's no building up, there's no growth. If you just constantly tore your muscles down, then you would just be nothing. So without the building up part of it to where you pull back and say, hey, that's kind of part of the process. Like I had to beat you down to get you to a point that I could build you back up. And when they see that, then they don't hold this, grudge or whatever you want to say against you. They don't hold like
resentment.
Essentially resenting. Yeah, you just say, and Chad, he's just he just sucks, man. I don't even want to be around this guy. But then he gives you a little bit, and it really makes the words that much more powerful. It's like, dude, he's been beating us down for the past however long, and now he just gave us something good. Like one line, they can live on for days on that.
Mm-hmm. I think with the shaming, one angle to that, one perspective is you could think about it as yelling at people and being cruel to them. But I think which
being cruel
never happens with you, Chad, right? But I think of it as exposing, not just shaming, but exposing. Like it's you're not allowed to hide, and I think that's what happens with a lot of people in their lives. They can hide. They can hide their deficiencies. They can hide their choices. They can not experience consequences. They can hide. And so I think one of the things that happens during these events that we put on is you can't hide anywhere.
Yeah.
and if you try to hide, we're going to expose it. And so call it shaming, but I think that is a different way to look at it. It's exposing.
Well, that's what it is. They're shaming themselves because whatever has happened has just been exposed, and they're like, "Oh, I'm ashamed of that." It's not like you're the one inflicting the shame. Mm-hmm. That's a good way to.
Y'all, I learned all of this in my own training. That's why I do the things that I do. I remember one time, we had a guy in our buds class named Youngers, and Youngers was always on light limited duty. Always. He was always hurt. And they just kept rolling him. He eventually ended up in our class. And I'll never forget, one day on San Clemente Island, I'm running over the berm to go hit the surf, right? And that water's cold, son. This was November, Pacific. Water's cold, and I'm beat down. I'm running over the berm. And Youngers is standing on top of the berm with a paddle. And he's waving, saying, ha, 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 I'm dry and you're wet. Ha, 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 I'm dry and you're wet. And my image of him was a skeleton. He looked like a skeleton up there. And he was having to say that over and over again as we went back and forth across this berm to hit the surf. And I can't imagine how that dude felt, man.
Well, did he ever train?
Dude, the dude was just a freaking sack of bones, dude. He just stayed injured all the time.
That sounds like the way to get through it. Just keep.
Yeah. They just, I don't know why nobody dropped him. I mean, I don't know why they never dropped him from training. He was hung in there like a tick, man.
It's like a cheat code. You just break your leg over and over again.
Pretty much.
You just skate on by.
Yep. That's what he did, man.
Oh man.
So that's where I get all these. Y'all wait till next class when we do rocking chairs. Yep. All right. So I want to, that's all really good stuff. Is there anything else that you guys think that you see happen to really, that could be valuable to really form a team?
Well, I think, not thinking specifically about proving grounds, but I think on this topic, I go back to sports a lot, and I can pinpoint something where I knew when a team was falling apart. And as a competitor, I loved it when I saw the other team doing this. So like you're on the soccer field or basketball court and you hear the other team start talking to each other and yelling at each other and bickering and making comments and getting mad. And I loved it. I was like, yeah, gotcha.
Could smell blood.
Yep, because you're losing it. And so you're falling apart. And so I loved it as a competitor. And then you'd have sometimes the coaches. I think that's important. The leaders of whatever team it is, if they can't hold it together and they start yelling and bickering and they can't control their emotions, I loved it because that meant that the players might not have been affected yet, but the moment the coach starts doing that, it's going to impact the team, and then the team's going to start falling apart. So I was very aware of that with the teams I was competing against, but that also sent a message to me like, ooh, I need to be on the lookout. If I hear one of my teammates just make a comment or something, I need to nip that in the bud because we've got to, talk positively and constructively. Doesn't mean that you don't criticize your teammate or tell them, that they did something wrong and tell them to improve, but you have to be constructive about it. You have to do it in the right way. And if you do that, like you said, follow up that negative with a positive, like make sure you're not just negative all the time. So, and controlling those emotions. And that's a huge thing that you learn, hopefully, playing sports is how to control those emotions because it can get intense and you can get intense with your teammates. So I think that's a huge lesson that I learned playing sports.
You think we could get intense like in a basketball game? Do you think any?
Was it a basketball game or a boxing match?
Man, that was probably my favorite quality in a teammate when I played basketball. I remember probably my favorite teammate ever. His name was Christian. Dude, he makes a shot. He airballed 3 times in a row, which he was very good. He never did that. But, he makes one, misses, has a turnover, someone smacks him in the face, whatever. I mean, he was always just freaking stone cold, like gave you nothing. I loved playing with him. It's exactly that. I mean, he never gave anybody anything. And he was a passionate dude. Like, he, off the court would have whatever, but yeah, that's a huge thing, I think.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the story you've told before about the 2 officers who one was running around like a chicken with his head cut off and the other was calm,
Yeah.
And I think even just extending that to just believers right now in culture, like who do you want to be? Do you want to be somebody who's panicking and running around? Like both of them knew what the situation was. The situation was the same, but how they were interacting it and experiencing it was totally different. Like, are you going to have composure in the midst of chaos? Are you going to stay calm? Are you going to let that ruffle your feathers? Or are you going to say, no, I recognize what this is. It's serious, but I'm going to stay calm and composed, and I'm not going to yell at my teammate, and I'm going to not cause division in the church and division here and division there. I'm going to remember who my enemy is, and I'm going to, keep my eyes on this mission, and we got to have this vision together, and we got to stay united, and You know, we need that calmness and we need that composure to be a strong team, to be a strong unit. And I think that story you've told before is just a really powerful example of that.
Mm-hmm. And we saw that in this latest Proving Grounds team. Mm-hmm. They were very calm and composed, which I think contributed tremendously to their ability to operate as a unit. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't see in the team that I had, that I spent the most time with, I didn't see any bickering or loss of significant emotions coming through any of that. Even from the team members that were really, really struggling, usually those are, you see the emotion come through and they just break down and they just stayed right with it. I mean, Annie stayed with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has grit.
I mean, she has grit, dude. She when she was in the midst of the mission, I know she was having all these emotions because she shared it in the after actions report. And I want to talk about that next, the importance of an AAR. She shared it, but in the midst of the mission, no, man, she was locked on, doing everything she could do to keep moving forward. Just really, really impressive. And I want to finish up the conversation as we talk about having a unified team. I want to talk about the importance of an after actions report. You guys do the after actions reports, and you run them very well. And I think it's extremely important for business teams, sports teams, family units, whatever. At the end of the day, at the end of a hard push, when you're moving in the direction of a goal, to sit down and have a AAR. I think it's really, really important. And I think it builds upon the unity because everybody after that after actions report should generally know where everybody's at moving into the next portion of the mission. We did these all the time. Every time we trained or operated in the teams, we always did an AAR. Always. So what advice would you guys give in terms of running an AAR? Because I think a lot of people don't know how to do that. They may have a team, but they don't know where do you start? When you sit down at the end of the day with your team and you hash out, what happened. So what advice would you give?
I think you got to leave everything at the door when you come in. I think it's important you shouldn't note the things that were just okay. Maybe they went a little bit good or a little bit bad. I think you should hit the things that went exceptionally well. They're just as worthy of noting because you would want to do that again or make sure you figured out why that happened. But it's also most important to talk about what went wrong, exceptionally wrong. And I like to end an AAR to me should be, okay, let's talk about this, and then it should be self-reflection of how you contributed there or here or how the team did. And so for me, whenever I do them, I like to end on the negative. I say negative, but what went bad. It's important to note the positive things, but when you get in there, especially if you were part of the team, then you're just going to want to talk about, I think this went good. I think we did this good. I think we did this good. And then it will kind of end at that. Someone might throw in, well, let's kind of change this next time. It wasn't bad, but let's change this. But you just got to be real and say, this sucked. If there was something there, and even if it's singling somebody out, if it's singling yourself out, you got to put it out there or you're just, the team is what's going to.
It could fester.
Yeah, it's going to fester and it's going to affect the team on the next mission. And I like to end on the negative because that's going to promote the most self-reflection, I think. If you end on the things that were done exceptionally well, then you're going to leave there thinking, I remember we talked about this, but I remember that I did this really good. And so you're going to be, I think, less apt to change anything if you leave the conversation on the things that went good.
I like that. And I was just thinking, if I ever had a child, I would name the child Fester. All right. How about you, Krista?
I agree with the self-assessment. I think that's really important. And I think it serves two functions, the assessment itself. But I think as instructors, it lets us know if we're letting them self-assess first instead of coming in and saying, hey, as instructors, this is what we observed today. Mm-hmm. I think it serves two purposes. One, the content of what they're saying, but then also it lets us know as instructors, how self-aware are they? Because there are some times when we'll see things and we're like, we have our little list and our notes, and then they'll start doing a self-assessment and we're like, they clearly don't get it. Like, I don't think they're very aware of, their issues. And so then that lets us know, how conscious they are of the reality of the situation. And then that lets us know, okay, where do we need to step in? Where do we need to press and stuff? And so I think the self-assessment is really important. I think another thing that I like to do is I like to dig deeper. So if there's a problem, sometimes I'll say the problem isn't the problem. Like you might have something that happened, a behavior, an event, something that happens that clearly is a problem or a negative. But I like to press them about why. Mm-hmm. Because you may never have that same situation again, so you may never have that exact problem again, but the root of that problem may still exist, and that's what you've got to nuke. You got to figure that out because it's just going to appear somewhere else in some other form. Mm-hmm. And so I like to try to get them to dig a little bit deeper to what's the root of that problem. Is it selfishness? Is it pride? Is it whatever it is? Something. There's usually some personal, emotional, deeper issue at play that's creating that problem.
Mm-hmm. Sort of like cause and effect.
Yeah.
Like you may name the effect as the problem when it's actually here's the cause over here.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. And often it's fear. I mean, people operate out of fear a lot. And so helping them identify whatever that kind of fear is or issue is can be, and that's something that they can apply in the rest of their lives, not just in that situation. They might not realize, wow, that's been driving me, not just here, in a lot of other areas of my life too.
Yep.
I think that's a really good point about the self-assessment. If you're going to do these on your own, people will understand the lessons more if you let them call it out themselves. If Krista, even if you know that you're selfish, and I say, Krista, I think you were really selfish today, and you're like, in your head, you're thinking that too, but you're going to say, you know what? No, I wasn't, Blake. No, I wasn't. But if you get to say it first, in people's mind, they're going to try to change that because I don't know what it is.
Well, your reaction is to find ways that you weren't.
Yeah.
Because
defensive.
Yep, you get defensive. So if you're going to do these with your team, I think it's important to open it up and say, I want to hear from you guys about what you think you did good and what you think you did bad. And if they don't hit the points you've got, then at that point, maybe you bring them to light. But if they hit them all, there's not much you as the facilitator of the AAR not much you have to say because they've already recognized it all.
Yeah.
So that's a good point, Krista.
And I think if they identify the deficiencies, then it's maybe your job as the instructor or the leader to help them dig deeper, like Krista was saying, right? So they don't just hit them and then move on. Yep. So, what about you, Chili?
Nah,
how do you run an AAR?
They hit it all. I mean, that's the most important thing I've learned is you're a facilitator if you're running it, and you don't just give all this commentary before they've even had a chance to speak. And you try to ask specific yet open-ended questions to where they can take it where they feel like what they need to talk about. But yeah, I mean, I like it. I really like it when those AARs, people start answering and then they kind of start communicating. It's not just silence and then someone says a little bit about what went well, what went bad, and then someone else pauses for a little while and then says it. No, they kind of start talking and they go, hey, I remember that when you did this and and then expound on it. And that's what I like. I'm like, oh, this is an actual conversation happening now, not just a bunch of individuals sharing. I'm like, man, and how you get that, a part of it is doing a good job, I think, asking questions, but also it's just they kind of have to be willing to do that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I really like that. I think that's when they go the best, is when that starts happening.
I think another piece of getting that is creating the space for that to happen.
Yeah.
Right. So when we go into an AAR, we don't say, okay, we've got 10 minutes to do this.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I think if you're on a time crunch, that you may have to do that, but ultimately, yeah, you don't want to let it drone on forever.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to beat a dead horse, which is something that you do have to maintain control of if you're running an AAR for your team. Don't allow them to beat a dead horse, right?
Yep.
Because then people start to check out. So as the facilitator or the leader of it, make sure you clean that up. Chili, you did a really, really cool thing on your AAR, man. You remember that question you asked about reassessing the objective? I think that was that's a great piece that you added in that we've never added in before.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of just built off the first night when we asked about your reason for being there and what you wanted to get out of it, and then visiting that again because a lot happened, and then basically giving them a chance to think and respond about, well, have I stuck to that, or have I lapsed? And then, you can think about that, and if you have, then good, and if not, you can kind of correct that the next day. And yeah, I mean, sometimes I just like hearing about sometimes what people thought they were supposed to be there for or whatever changes, and it's really cool to hear that. And I think it's valuable for them to start talking about that and sharing it, because it's like, oh man, yeah, this is actually why I'm here. And then I think voicing that helps you continue to execute on it and not waste the time. I don't know. There's a lot of reasons, but
Yeah,
which is a good thing to do in life, just to generally, like, these things we're talking about and these principles can be applied in other situations, in your personal life and your job. If you're part of an organization like a church, the things that you do, how you minister, like, those are things that you can constantly be talking about, assessing, having conversations about. And you, like Chili said, you can start in to something with one idea or vision or mindset, and then as you grow, you realize, oh, wow, it's actually what I thought is kind of getting cleaned up in my mind and redirected. And so it's good to, like, just keep reassessing and don't ever think you've arrived.
I think the last thing to hit on that is whatever the action is that you're reporting on, you should break it down and say, all right, and this, let's break the day or the task or whatever we just did down into whatever sections make sense. Because if you just say, what do you guys think you did good or bad today, then they're just going to go to the top one, which, and maybe that's what you want, but if a lot has happened, I think it's important to break it down and say, we're going to talk about the day up until this point, and go around and do that, and then we're going to talk about from that point to this point.
Yep.
And then at the end, if there's, that's where I like to just share the general things that I saw a common thread throughout the day of. But and then that also helps people relax and not feel rushed. Like, okay, right now we're just talking about this, so they're not having to think about the whole day. So it works good in the ones we do.
Yeah, it works good because if you're operating at maximum capacity like we do at the Proving Grounds or the basic course or whatever, you're literally fitting like what should be 3 days worth of growth into 1 day. I mean, we fit 3 days of training into 1 day.
Yeah.
We do it. And it just takes a lot of work and a lot of intensity, but we've dialed it in to where we can do that. So that is important. And yeah, going back to Chili's thing, I think it is important at the end of an AAR. Sometimes as a team, you might have set a goal or an objective, and as you're moving in that direction, maybe at some point that goal, it could potentially change, or it may not make sense anymore, and maybe it makes more sense for you to shift one way or the other. So constantly assessing what you're trying to accomplish, what is the mission, and does it still make sense moving in the direction that you are moving, and allowing that to develop if it makes sense, right? And I really like that you threw that in there. After actions reports are very, I mean, they're absolutely essential. For me, I don't run the AARs for 307 Project because that's not my gift or my strength. But I know in the teams, one of the ways we used to like to do it is when we came off a mission, we said, okay, we're going to hit the 3 things we did good and the 3 things that need improvement. So again, keeping it, because people could drone on, man.
Yeah.
So keeping it, concise is one of the big things that I like to see in an AAR. Well, that's a lot of stuff, man. That's a lot of stuff. I hope this stuff has offered some value to you if you're part of a team. If you're not part of a team, I would suggest finding a group. I don't care what it is. A group of people in your local community, in your church building, whatever it is, and you guys uniting and setting a common goal for yourself and moving in that direction, because it's powerful. It's powerful. And man, it feels good. It really does. So take all of these things into consideration. And I truly believe this is one of the huge things that our society lacks, is the ability to come alongside one another in order to achieve what is best for our community, for our nation, for Christ, whatever it may be. And that's why I wanted to sit down and have this conversation. Because we all see it happen, but I'm just like, I wanted to ask, how does this happen, right?
Yeah.
It's not by accident.
Before we finish, I just want to say, I mean, do you have anything else to share on the topic, or you?
No, buddy.
Well, we've talked a lot about the Proving Ground, and I just want to say we've changed the way that you can sign up for it now. That you just go on the website, look at the Proving Ground, and it'll tell you how to do it, but you're submitting an application versus just having the link this time. So just so people know the difference of it, since we've talked so much about it.
Yeah. I have something I might want to do with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll announce that probably next week.
Well, if you want to submit your application before Chad changes it, that's how you do it. Once he changes it, we'll let you know.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I also do want to say what's interesting about, there are, I don't know, I've never been to any other people's experiences, like training that they put on. If I want you guys to understand something about everything that we do. Everything that we do, we are trying to develop the full human. So these things that we do, it's not a beat down. It's not a purely physical challenge. It's an essential aspect, but that's not what anything that we do is. It's not just a come out and see how hard you are. Come out and see how much punishment you can take. No, I could easily do, if we decided to train that way, it would be infinitely easier than what we actually do.
Yeah.
So the goal of everything that we do is to develop you physically, mentally, and spiritually. All right? And I think that's what makes our training different than anyone else's that I know of.
Yeah.
I really do. I think that's what makes it so powerful. And I'm just so thankful for all you guys that have invested into the Body of 307 Project, invested into yourself. And I want to leave you with the reminder that there is nothing better to invest in than yourself and your training. These are foundational skills that you can build upon in order to accomplish. Everybody just wants to go straight to learning the cool stuff. Like, teach me tactics. Teach me how to shoot. teach me. None of that works. Like all the cool stuff, none of that stuff works without the foundation. That's the reason for our range training. When we teach people tactics, we will only teach people tactics that have trained at the proving grounds or the basic course. This isn't for the public. I'm not skipping ahead and teaching you this skill because it becomes dangerous then. Mm-hmm. If all you know is this tactical skill without the foundation of being able to unify, communicate, work as a team, it doesn't work. It just becomes dangerous.
Yeah, there's nothing easy or attractive about digging the foundation of a house and getting all your footers and form boards right. But if you build a house on top of something that doesn't have all of that, then who cares how nice the cabinets are?
I did not touch a real gun in SEAL training until 5 months. 5 months. It took 5 months of intensive training before I ever touched a real weapon. That's pretty crazy, ain't it?
Yeah.
But when you finally did pick that thing up, you were able to be the most effective fighting force on earth because of the foundation. So y'all don't skip ahead, man. And I don't care if you train with me or train with some other credible company, but don't think that you can skip the steps to becoming an effective force for good. All right? It's a process. I love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Nuff said.